Round 2, fight. No, that's not right. Modes. No, that's not it. Learn. Round 2, learn. Hello friends and neighbors, welcome back to the Brownstone. My name is Rich Brown. Thank you for being here. Hope you had a fantastic week. I had a really great week. I just came back from Los Angeles, where I played the Angel City Jazz Festival with a great piano player by the name of Jeremy Ledbetter. Watch out for his music. If you see it anywhere, buy it up in droves. But today, we're back with the second video in our little series about the modes. Now, last week, if you haven't seen last week's video, I will link it up there. But last week's video was basically a preliminary exercise that demonstrated how to find the chord tones in one position using one scale so that you don't have to make any shifts or any moves outside of the scale that you're working with. So part 2 of this study is going to involve taking that idea through all of the modes. Because if you can do it on one scale, then theoretically you should be able to do it on every mode of that scale. By it, I mean play the chord tones in a given diatonic chord progression. Right? That's kind of eye-opening and mind-blowing in itself. So it's a really great exercise to do. So if I take, let's say we take, for instance, a simple 2-5-1 chord progression, because it's, not a lot of chords, really easy. It's something that you've heard a million times before, and we can work with it. But keep in mind that you can do this with any diatonic chord progression that you can think of. Diatonic simply means of the key, using all of the chords of that key. Very simple. So check this out. If I take a 2-5-1 chord progression in C major, using the notes of the C major scale, I've got my 2 chord, which is going to be D minor, so I play a D minor triad. I'll just use the triads. So what is that? We've got D, F, A. Those are my 3 notes of the D minor triad. The 5 chord is a dominant 7th chord, G dominant 7th in this particular key. So we have the root G. There's the major 3rd, which is B. There's the 5th, the D. But look at that. I've made a shift. I don't want to do that. I want to keep everything in one position. So I play the root, the 3rd, and then I take the 5th down the octave. That keeps me in the same position. So what are the notes? I've got G, B, and D. And then for my 1 chord, it's very simple. You take a C major triad. We've got C, E, G. And then I've got the C up there. Any opportunity that I have to play the octave of any of the notes in the triad, I will make sure to do so. So in this case, I've got my triad, and then there's the octave of my root note right there. So then I can just play the progression using the triads. So 2 chord, 5 chord, 1 chord, right? So now you can hear towards the end of that I was starting to incorporate more notes of the scale, even if I wasn't using the actual triad tones or chord tones. Because once I realize where those notes are in the triad, I can use those as target notes and then use the rest of the notes of my scale as notes to connect those chords. So I can just play the triads. Or I can use the entire scale and use each of those notes of the triads as target notes that allow me to connect the chords more melodically, right? So a good example would just be to play the 2-5-1 chord progression and get the sound of those triads in your ears. Now you hear what that melodic movement sounds like. But as you're doing that, you can also see where all of those notes are going to be. This is a great exercise. So here, what I can do is play in a different way. Now that I know I'm in this scale, which is a very safe zone, and I've found my target notes, which makes things even safer, I can use the scale to connect those notes together. So I don't necessarily have to play triad, triad, triad. I can play, let's say I play from the third. And then from the third of my G. And then the third of the C chord. Right? So now I'm giving myself different options. Okay, so that's a very long explanation to say that we are now going to do the same thing with each mode of C major. This is so super cool because you can still find all of the notes of each of those triads, right, on each mode of C major. So if I move down to D Dorian, the second mode of C major, now remember that's a minor scale where the sixth note of the scale is raised by a semitone. So then I find my notes. I find those notes of the triad. If you're doing this exercise, write down the notes of the triad so that you know what notes you're going for as you move to the next position. So remember, I've got D, F, A. That's my D minor triad. And then G, B, D for the G major triad. And then C, E, G for the C major triad. So if I move down to D Dorian, here is D, F, A. And then there's D again. So I move to the 5 chord, I've got G, B, D. And then there's D again. And then here, for my 1 chord, I've got C, there's my E, and there's G. Those are the notes of my C major triad. And then I can even use this E up here, as it's still part of the chord, or sorry, part of the scale. So now I can play the same progression moving up to the D Dorian scale, right? So then what do we have? We have D minor, G major to C major. Super cool, super simple. I'll play it again. So D minor, those are the notes of the triad. G major to C major. Now, in the same way that I used the scale to connect those triads in a more melodic way, now I want to do this as I move through. So now when I find those notes, find those target notes, those triad notes, using the D Dorian scale, I want to spend a little bit of time here and just work with the different ways I can connect those triads. So I want to get the sound of those triads in my ears. once I've got that sound together, once I have the chords in my ears and the notes of those triads under my fingers, then I can use the rest of the scale, my D Dorian scale, to do the same thing and connect those chords in a more melodic way. So I have my D minor. Well, I can start my progression from any of those notes of the D minor. So if I go from the third, here I've landed on the third of my G7. Right? How beautiful is that? I'll do it again. So this time I'll start from the fifth of the D minor. Here we go. It's so cool. I'm laughing because it's so cool. There's so many ways that you can connect these chords. And now I'm doing this in a way that allows me to play the entire chord progression in multiple positions. I was going to say several different positions. But sometimes these modes overlap in a way that makes it really easy to just play two modes. For instance, when I play the E Phrygian scale, and connect that with the F, what is this? F Lydian scale. You can see I'm not moving at all. So E Phrygian is a minor scale where the second note of the scale is flat. F Lydian is a major scale where the fourth note of the scale is sharp. So those two scales overlap quite nicely. So if we do the same thing using this position, we're basically covering the next two modes, right? So let's try that. So looking at my two chord, I've got D, there's the fifth, there's the minor third. So D, F, A. And then here, my G7, there's my triad. There's the root G, there's the third B, there's the fifth D. And then C major. There's C, there's the fifth G, there's E. There's the E again. Remember, I'm taking every opportunity to use the octave of whatever note I can find within that position. So, again, 2 chord, 5 chord, 1 chord. It's so cool. And here I'm covering 2 modes. Huh? How about that? Once you have all of those notes down, then you keep moving to a different position and you keep finding those notes of each of those triads. Next thing you know it, you can play the entire fingerboard just on 1 chord progression. This is really great because opening up the fingerboard this way really allows you to come up with different ideas and really use the entire fingerboard to connect the chords in a very cool and very melodic way. So remember, when you're dealing with something like this, when you're working with this exercise, the process is as follows. You have the chord progression, so write down the notes of the triads of each chord. If you want to do the 7th chords, then add the 7th to those triads and find those notes within that scale, within that major scale or that root scale. The 2-5-1 is a great progression for this. 1-6-2-5 is also a great progression for this. Anything you can think of. So then you find that in your home scale. You find that in that major key. And then you move the same thing and do it all again on the Dorian, then the Phrygian, then the Lydian, then the Mixolydian, then the Ionian. Is it Ionian, or I always get Ionian and Aeolian mixed up. Ionian, right? Anyway, and then the Locrian, and then you're back at the major scale. This is cool because I covered pretty much the entire fingerboard. And even the things that I haven't covered, well, I already know because it starts all over again. So if I'm here, there's my Dorian. Oops. There's my C major scale. Here's my Dorian scale. Even working backwards, here's my C major scale. Then one back from there would be the Locrian scale. And then the minor scale. Then Mixolydian. Then Lydian. So everything is covered. The entire fingerboard is covered. Isn't that the coolest thing? So yes, write down the notes of each of those triads and then find those triads on every single mode. It is a wonderful exercise that really keeps the mind going, and it's not that difficult. It's just a matter of doing the work. And then listen, once you've got it, you've got it. It won't take you that long. My friends and neighbors, I think I'm going to leave it there and leave you to the work. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this lesson has opened up some new ideas for you and some new exercises for you to practice. And again, we're really opening up the fingerboard to all of its possibilities so that you can play any song anywhere on the neck with the greatest of ease. All you have to do is recognize where your triads are, and you are sailing. You are home free. All right. If you did like this lesson, do me a huge favor and click that little like button. It means a great deal, and it allows the video to be pushed out to more people so that they can get introduced to what we're doing here at the Brownstone. You can also subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, which lets you know anytime I'm releasing a new video on this channel. And you can also support the channel financially in one of two ways. You can donate directly to the channel with any amount that you see fit. I will leave the link for donations in the description box below. There's also a little button that says join. And once you click that, for a small fee of $5 a month, you can support this channel and really help me to bring more videos like this to you. All of it means a great deal, and I am very appreciative and so grateful to all of you who have already signed up and become top friends and neighbors of the Brownstone. Thank you very much for doing so. And there are perks involved with that. We can talk about like future subjects for the channel and different things that get you a little more connected to me directly. So if any of that sounds good to you, please, it all helps. And I thank you all very much for watching. I thank you for your comments. I read every single one, even if I'm not able to respond. I do appreciate the kind words and the support. And that's that, my friends and neighbors. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Peace and love.